What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and a big thank you for joining me on episode 3 of the Arsenal beta save. Yes, we have kicked on. In the last episode we had gone up to the point of the World Cup break. Still can't believe there's a Winter World Cup coming up. It's absolutely bonkers, but in game we have now navigated that hurdle, and in today's episode we are pushed forwards to the 1st of February 2023, and you know what that means. That means we've been able to sign players. Yes, starting off the game, we had made it so you couldn't sign any players in that first transfer window, which meant we have had to use the squad all the way up until the start of January. Well, in today's episode, I can announce that we have been out and we have made some signings, and we are going to introduce them all in today's episode. We are going to go through everything that's happened to get us to the 1st of February. We're going to show you what finances are left at the club. We're going to show you what the board think of what we've been doing so far also, and then we're going to go through the squad and see where we can improve in the future, and also show you maybe where some of our new signings will slot in. So let's kick this one off. Let's show you some brand new signings. To kick off our spending in this transfer window, we went to the United States and we raided them for 3 of their best US youth internationals. The first of which is Caden Clark. He has come to us technically from Red Bull Leipzig, but has gone back to America to play on loan for New York Red Bulls in real life. He's a 19-year-old attacking midfielder or winger. As you can see by his map, he can play wide left, wide right, can also play through the middle and as a makeshift striker. We paid £3.1 million for him. If you have a little look at his career path, you can see actually started off at Minnesota and then went and took part in something called the Barcelona Residency USA, which I think is where they assess players to put into the Barcelona setup, so kind of like a junior youth team around the world. He then ended up in the Red Bull academies, so he went to New York Red Bull 2, played for New York Red Bulls, then went to Leipzig, was loaned back to New York Red Bulls, and now we have purchased him for £3.1 million. He is a hot prospect in real life. Looking at his stats, he has a little bit of work to do, but as a 19-year-old, he does have some good pace and acceleration. He has a lot of mentals that are roughly where they should be for a 19-year-old. Good composure, good work rate, good technique. Tackling is good too for an attacking player. Long shots, could work on his dribbling and his finishing, but I think he's a player that we're going to try and extract the best out of. I think we're going to try and throw him straight into the first team, have him train in and around the first team, and see how we can develop Caden Clark. Next up, we went and signed a player that I think could make big waves in the footballing world. If he gets into the USA full national team for the World Cup, I think he has a massive chance of putting himself out there as a world star, even at the tender age of 19. We have signed Cade Cal. Now, if you haven't heard the name Cade Cal before, go type his name into YouTube, have a little look at him, see what he's all about. He's a dynamic wide player who can also play up top, so similar to Caden Clark, but this time he's more about pace, he's more about acceleration, he's a bit more of a direct player. I actually think of the two of them in real life, he's probably the better of the two. In the game, they don't really agree. You can see the path that he has took to get to us was through the San Jose Earthquakes. He played for Reno as well. But he comes to us having had 3 seasons in the MLS playing at the top flight, and I think he's a player who is going to develop really, really well as part of our first team, and we're going to try and get the very best out of Cade Cowell to see if he can become a bit of a world star. The third of our young Americans is Paxton Aronson. Now, if you've heard the name Brendan Aronson, you will know he plays for Leeds United. He went through the Red Bull youth setup, and this is his younger brother, Paxton, who I think actually has a chance to be the better of the two brothers in the long run. He starts the game off at Philadelphia Union, We have then gone and signed him. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a work permit for him, but I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem. We've loaned him straight out to Willem Drey in Holland. He's already played 2 first-team games for them. Looking at him, he's another 19-year-old. He comes in as another dynamic winger, wide player who can play from the outside to come in, can also play as a striker. These 3 lads are really making waves in the USA, and I think they have the opportunity to break out of the US and get into the European setups sooner rather than later. So we are going to give them a go in game and see if we can make that happen. Obviously, Aronson is going to be loaned out for the next couple of seasons, which is okay. His contract runs for the next 4 years, so we're going to try and get him a work permit as quickly as we can. If we can keep playing him in top flight games, I think we're going to get that sorted sooner rather than later. The next 2 players that have come in, one is a tricky winger who can play on either side of the pitch, and the other one is a rising star who can play through the centre of the park. The first one that we signed was Paulinho. He can play as a midfielder, attacking midfielder on the left or the right. He also plays a makeshift striker, and you can see straight away his game is about pace of 15, acceleration of 14. He has really good physicals, natural fitness of 16. In terms of the mentals, he has good bravery, composure, determination, flair off the ball. Passing is good, penalty taking, technique of 14. He comes in from Bayer Leverkusen. They got him from Vasco da Gama in Brazil. He's coming as a fringe player because we just need a little bit of a rotation option. £1.1 million is an absolute steal for this player. If we can get him to come good, I mean, look at how much Leverkusen had to pay for him in real life. 16.25 million shows you exactly the kind of calibre that he is. He is a 22-year-old, so he is on that higher end of the kind of younger players that we would look at. But I think he has all the attributes to step in when Martinelli's out, and when we need somebody maybe could fill in as the right-sided midfielder when Saka is out. I think his versatility on the pitch will give us options. The next player to come through the doors is a rising star in world football. He's Cher N'Dour. He comes to us via Benfica's B team. He had previously played for Atalanta and has played his club football in both Italy and Portugal. We have signed him basically to be a midfield general. Going to try and play him in that more central midfield rather than the attacking midfield side of the game. He does seem to have a lot of work that needs to be done on his game. He's an 18-year-old who seems to have untapped potential. If you see against our own squad, he has a 4-star potential ability. For the price that we paid, I think he's an absolute steal. £1.7 million is absolutely nothing for a guy who could be an absolute wonder kid. I think we're going to throw him in the first team, try and get him training with those first team players, build his stats. I mean, if you look at it in terms of what he's got for a midfielder, he has good, decent passing at 12, decent technique at 12, vision is good, flair is good, determination's okay at 12, good physicals. The only thing that does disappoint a little bit is that his work rate is 9, but hopefully that is something that we can try and drill into him. I think Cher N'Dour is going to be a top player for Arsenal. Moving on then, 2 more players that we have signed. One is a young wing-back, the other is an experienced centre-back who the fans absolutely hate, it seems. But we're going to concentrate first on Javi Araujo. He's a young 18-year-old left-back, English, coming via Fulham. You can see exactly what his game is going to be about. He has good stamina, he has good balance and acceleration. Pace could do with a bit of tweaking at 9, but when you look at his all-around game as a wing-back, I think he's going to be absolutely sound. He has good work rate, good vision, good leadership, determination of 17 for an 18-year-old is a good trait. He has good tackling at 15, passing at 16, first touch at 15. He's a fairly determined personality as a player. Obviously going to be a bit of a rotation option, and hopefully he can come good and start challenging the likes of Kieran Tierney and Alexander Zinchenko to get into the first team as the left back option. The next player that we went out and signed was Wesley Hoedt. This is the player that you might have heard I said that the fans and the board pretty much despise in terms of a signing, but I don't think it's as bad as it looks. He's a bit of a journeyman. He has been around. He's played at Southampton, Antwerp, Lazio and Anderlecht. That's who we bought him from. We paid £9.75 million for him, and don't get me wrong, he's not going to be a first teamer. He's going to be a backup. In fact, he even took emergency backup as a contract option. Now, I think it's a little bit harsh that everybody has such a downer on him. I think it's because his time at Southampton didn't go so well. But when you look at him as a raw player, he actually has everything that you need for a good backup for like a cup game or a rotation option when one of your first choice goes down. Picking it apart, he's 192 centimetres tall. He has good jumping reach, good natural fitness, good tackling, good heading, work rate, teamwork. I'm not too sure what there isn't to like about a player who comes in as an emergency backup with those kinds of stats. 9.75 probably was a little bit on the high side, but I think he actually is going to do well for the club when he is called upon, and that probably isn't going to be very often. The final player that we bought in is Dominic Szoboszlai. He's a previous wonder kid, and he's a bit of a marquee signing for this first transfer window. We knew the type of player that we would be getting. He can play through the middle. He can play from the wing too. He's a creative genius, a Hungarian international who showed up really, really well against England in a recent real-life football match. He's come from the Red Bull academies. He went through Liefering, Salzburg, Leipzig, and now we have brought him to Arsenal. I think he has everything that we need going forwards. 22 years old, 186 centimetres tall. He's a player that we know is going to be able to change games when we need him to step in and do so. If you look at his stats, his physicals are pretty good. Pace of 15, acceleration of 15, everything else there standing out. In terms of the mentors, he has good flair, work rate, vision, technique. He has good long shots, free kick taking. Finishing could be better than 12, but then again, probably aren't going to be playing him as a forward because he doesn't really play there. But as a winger cutting from the inside or in that Mazzala role going forwards, I think he's going to have a big hand in how we play football games going forwards. So that is all of the signings complete. Let's have a little look at the finances and show you exactly what we have spent, and we are going to show you what is left in the finances going forwards. Also then going to start to have a run through what's been happening since the World Cup has finished, played a month's worth of games, and finally we're going to show you the squad, how it all fits together and what we're looking to do going towards the end of the first season. So quickly, before we jump into the finances tab, let's have a little look at how the money was spent and what money we received for players. So in total, the club has spent £171 million in this season, but obviously everything below Alexander Zinchenko on that list was already at the club. So we have spent £3.1 million on Caden Clark, 1.7 on Sharon Dorr, £7.5 million was the fee we had to pay for Cade Cowell, which I think is going to be a bargain going forwards. Paulinho was £1.1 million. Paxton Aronson was £2.2 million. Szoboszlai was the marquee signing at £30 million. Javier Araujo was 1.7. Wesley Holt cost 9.75. To recoup some of that money, we moved Cedric on to Al OSC for £8.5 million. We moved Taylor Foran on for £39,000. Not a great fee, but it's a little bit of money coming back. And then there were some other players that had left the club too, none of which were extreme amounts of money. Zaynman Lewis, George Lewis, Jack Henry Francis, Paxton Aronson went out on loan to Willem Dre. Ovi Ajeri went to Rotherham. Marquinhos has gone out on loan to Middlesbrough to get him some first team experience. And Nathan Butler Oyedeji, sorry. If I've butchered that name, I really apologise. Right then, so let's have a look at the finances then. So, left in the bank is £17.6 million, but the transfer budget still is £19.8 million. If I wanted to, I could have gone out and got another player or two. I got to the point where the squad was getting expanded enough that I wanted to just stop and keep the players that I'd got already at the club. Obviously, as I said, no transfers in the first window meant I had to use the squad. And looking at the squad, it's in a good enough position anyway. Obviously losing Cedric, and then we picked up Araujo. We also then went out and made sure the midfield was looked after, and we have some good attacking options now also to come off of the bench. So the team, all in all, I think is in a really good place going forwards. Not going to be able to spend any money now until next summer anyway, so we're going to have to see exactly what we've got come the summer. Looking at the wage budget then, £2.62 million in the wage budget. We are only spending £2.32 million, so a very healthy wage budget there. The last thing that we're going to look at before we show you the running as to how we get to here is in the club vision. So in terms of the board, they have given us a B. Their feedback is they're pleased with the 4-0 win over Man City. You'll be seeing that soon. Pleased with the 4-0 victory over Notts Forest and delighted with the positive atmosphere in the changing room. Then the down points, 1-1 draw with Crystal Palace. Finances involved to loan out Marquinhos, and they are concerned about the finances involved to sign Wesley Holt. So obviously having to justify that completely. Looking then at the supporters, you can see we get a B+ from the supporters, so they're a little bit happier. They are happy that we're playing attacking football, playing entertaining football, finishing above Tottenham currently in the league, finishing above Man United in the league, being competitive against Chelsea and qualifying for the Europa League. They were pleased with the 2-0 win against Wolves, pleased with the 4-0 win against Man City, and delighted with Gabriel Martinelli's recent performances, and they have exactly the same kind of concerns as the board. As I said, disappointed about the Crystal Palace draw, disappointed with Wesley Holt's recent performances. I don't even think he's played a game, so they're already kind of written him off, and they're disappointed with the signing of him in general. And as I said, I think that stems back to his Southampton days. So that's the money, that's the club vision. The next thing to have a look at is how we are performing in the league. So in the last episode, we had gone up until the World Cup break. Today, we have pushed forwards to the 1st of February 2023. Let's have a little look at the schedule and the competitions tab to show you how we have got to where we are today and how we are getting on. In the previous episode then, we had gone forwards to the World Cup break. You could see that meant that the last game that we had played was on the 12th of November 2022. The World Cup has since taken place. Let's have a little look at who won it just out of curiosity. And you can see it's France. France went on and won the World Cup. So is that an omen for real life? Maybe. Maybe not. We'll see. It kicks off in a very short space of time. Hopefully it's going to be a good tournament. I still think it's bonkers. But back to Football Manager. So we then came back and played a friendly against AEK Athens on the 10th of December. We won that game 2-0. We then kicked off competitive football once again with a game against Fleetwood Town. We won that 4-0 in the Carabao Cup 4th round. Goals from Odegaard, Smith Rowe, Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel. So the Gabriel duo getting on the score sheet there. And then we played the first Premier League game back just across the way in West Ham. And we played at the London Stadium and we took 3 points with a goal from Martin Odegaard in the 46th minute. Now, the train starts to move quite nicely from here on in. We had a 4-0 victory on New Year's Eve, 31st of December, a 4-0 victory with goals from Gabriel Jesus, Bukayo Saka, William Saliba. Omar Richards did get sent off for Notts Forest, but it was already done by that point. We then go to the Molineux. First game of the new year, so now into 2023, 2nd of January, and we got 3 more points, and the Gabriel duo do it again. Gabriel scoring first, Gabriel Jesus doubling up for the win. The next game, January always brings the FA Cup 3rd round, and we got drawn against Southampton. We swept them completely to one side. Cade Cowell, Caden Clark and Bukayo Saka getting the goal, so the American connection now coming in their first game. They go and score a goal apiece, so hopefully that is first steps along the path to them becoming Arsenal legends. James Ward-Prowse did get a goal back for Southampton, but we went on and won the game. In fact, they scored the first goal and we went and won the game. Then we move on. It was a 4-1 victory in the Carabao Cup quarter-final. We beat Crystal Palace. Gabriel Jesus got 2. Zinchenko scored. And Sharon Dorr going on to score his first goal for the club. Also, Mateta scoring for Crystal Palace, but we go through. Then, the game that everybody was talking about. We go and play against Manchester City and we win 4-0. Yes, you can see Erling Haaland himself, the robot, the machine, getting sent off after 11 minutes gave us a great opportunity and we took it with both hands. Gabriel Jesus getting a hat-trick and Emil Smith-Rowe scoring the other goal as we take all 3 points against Manchester City as it's looking good in the Premier League. Let's run through these goals for you then. So we start off by playing the ball out wide left. Zinchenko is going to cross it in and there is Gabriel Jesus. Take it on his chest and put it away against his former club. Notice how he goes and celebrates. Football managers still haven't worked out how to not celebrate against your former club. And long may it last. Because Gabriel Jesus does it again. And again he runs off into the corner, clapping the Arsenal fans right in front of all of his former Manchester City fans. Odegaard with the ball through to Smith-Rowe. He gets in behind. Ball in off of the post. 39 minutes. 3-0 up. And just for fun, we go and add a fourth goal in the second half. White with the ball forwards. Jesus is in. Little lob over Ederson who goes to ground way too soon and we end up running out 4-0 victors against Manchester City. What an absolute game that was. Then we go and play against Southampton. In fact, they come to us. We win 1-0 with a Smith-Rowe penalty after 8 minutes. We then play Brentford, same outcome, 1-0 win. We go to the Brentford Community Stadium. Martin Odegaard getting the goal there after 2 minutes. Then we play in the Carabao Cup semi-final first leg and we beat Newcastle 3-2 with a hat-trick from Gabriel Jesus, Alexander Isak and Dan Burn getting the goals for Newcastle. Then the game that was also brought up by both the board and the fans was the 1-1 draw against Crystal Palace. Now, I'm not too sure why it's so disappointing. I mean, we did beat them 4-1 in the Carabao Cup quarter-final, but we're in the FA Cup. It's not that bad. We rotated the team and played half the first team and half of the reserves, so I wasn't too disappointed personally, but obviously the board and the fans not really liking it. So where does that leave us in terms of competitions? Let's have a little look at that. So you can see in terms of the Premier League, we are sat pretty top of the league, 52 points, Liverpool on 51, Manchester City on 50, and then we have quite a drop off to Tottenham, who are on 39. Man United 37, Palace 37, West Ham 36, Chelsea all the way back down there in 8th on 33 points. So it's looking good so far in the Premier League. We're going to need to keep it up though. There is 22 games gone. There are 16 games left. Can we hold on to it? Can we make it a first season to remember at Arsenal? In the Europa League, we have qualified comfortably from Sociedad. We won the group. We played 6, won 5, drew 1, 16 points there. Then in the FA Cup, obviously we have just had that 1-1 draw with Crystal Palace, which forces a replay. We are going to go on and see who we get. So it'll be Middlesbrough if we can get through to the 5th round. In the Carabao Cup, we are currently leading 3-2 after the first leg of the semi-final. And it seems like we are going to be playing against Liverpool in the final as they have won 3-0 against Sheffield United on aggregate in the other semi-final. So that's all the competitions. Everything is now up to date in terms of that. One final look at the squad. We're going to show you the best 11 and show you where I see some of these players that we have signed fitting in. Okay, let's have a quick look at the squad planner then and see where these players that we have signed fit in. You can see Aaron Ramsdale is still our clear number one goalkeeper. In terms of the left backs, it's Zinchenko, Tierney and Araujo. That is probably the right order. I think Tierney is probably ahead, but he's currently injured, so Zinchenko has made that role his own. In terms of the centre backs, Gabriel, Saliba, White, Holding, Tierney, Tomiyasu. Araujo gets in above Hoet in terms of what our squad planner currently looks like. We are asking our assistant too, so it's justified that a 28-year-old defender who comes in previously playing for Southampton is going to be bottom of the pile. I'm actually going to move him above Araujo because Araujo is a wing back. Into the other central defensive positions, they are pretty much the same order, and again I think we're going to move Hoet above Araujo and probably should go above Tierney and maybe Tomiyasu too. But still, we're happy with the squad depth that we have there. In terms of the ball-winning midfielders then, so it's saying Zinchenko, Partey, Xhaka, Lokonga and El Neni is the order. I probably would push Partey up above Zinchenko and even Xhaka above Zinchenko. And then obviously it's Lokonga and El Neni after that. In terms of the right winger, so Zinchenko, Nelson and Paulinho. It still doesn't list Saka as a defensive winger on the right, but we know he plays there because he has been playing really, really well. In terms of the left-hand side, now this is where it gets really interesting because we have 1,000,001 options. So Saka, Zinchenko, Jesus, Vieira, Martinelli, Smith Rowe, and Nketiah, Nelson. Then we get down to Caden Clark, Cade Cowell, Paulinho, and it's saying Dominic Szoboszlai is all the way down there. So obviously it's waiting for me to manually sort it because I would put him surely above these. I would put him above these. I would probably move him above Smith Rowe and then leave him about there. But obviously this here is an option also for Szoboszlai in terms of the Masala position, and I think he deserves to be moved right up almost to the top. In fact, with Zinchenko being top of that list, he deserves to be at the top. And I also think Sharon Dorr has a great shout of being above Zinchenko too. But obviously for his age, we will leave it just as it looks now. So finally, in terms of the striking positions, it's Jesus, Martinelli, Nketiah and Cade Cowell now at the bottom of that list. No problems there whatsoever, and I think squad depth is coming along nicely too. If we have a little look at the best 11s now, you can see it's got Ramsdale, Zinchenko, Saliba, White, Gabriel, Xhaka, Partey, then Bukayo Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus. So according to this, Szoboszlai isn't going to be breaking into the first team anytime soon, but I've got a feeling that he actually is because, as I said, £30 million on a marquee player probably justifies the fact that you're going to want to play your marquee player. Looking at the youngsters then, so we still have, can never pronounce this name first time, Rojas Fedorchenko. Alexei Rojas Fedorchenko is our reserve goalkeeper. We then got Nuno Tavares, Omar Rekik, Zach Orr and Kakuri at those three central defensive positions. We have Jack Henry Francis. We have Sambi Lokonga. We have Emil Smith Rowe, Charlie Patino, Reece Nelson and Eddie Nketiah in terms of the best youth at the club. Looking at the squad as a whole then, this is pretty much what we have got. So we've got the three goalkeepers, Carl Jacob Hein, Aaron Ramsdale, Matt Turner. We've got Gabriel, Rob Holding, Ben White, Wesley Hodit, Saliba, Tomiyasu. Then we've got Tierney, Zinchenko, Araujo as wingbacks, El Neni, Sami Lokonga, Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka, Martin Odegaard, Cher and Dorr. We then got Szoboszlai, Paulinho, Reece Nelson, Emil Smith Rowe, Bukayo Saka, Fabio Vieira, Caden Clark, Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel Martinelli, Eddie Nketiah and Cade Cowell. So I think that the squad is pretty much set. We have Emil Smith Rowe currently unhappy, wants a new contract. That is something that is popping up time and time again. Saliba wants to leave, wants a new contract. So we've got a few of them to get through. Eddie Nketiah, also another one, wants initially agreed playing time. So he's different, but a lot of contracts to look at. So that is all of the transfer activity and everything that's happened since the World Cup. That window is now slammed shut, and we are going to use this squad hopefully to go on and make it a memorable first season at the end of the Arsenal beta save. In the next episode, we're going to push forwards to the end of the season. So you're going to get the answer to the question pretty quickly. Is it a successful season? Can we maintain our lead at the top of the Premier League? Can we go and win the Europa League? Can we add a domestic cup to go with it? To find out, you're going to have to come back on the next episode. But before you go anywhere, you're still here listening to me. Firstly, a big thank you. Secondly, if you haven't hit the like and subscribe button, please consider doing so. Helps the channel so much. Appreciate every single person that takes their time to come to the channel and interact with it, whether that be a comment, a like or a subscribe. I really do appreciate every single person that drops by. For this one though, I'm going to wrap it there. Check out anything else that we've got going on the channel. There's some tactics, some wonder kids, tutorials, let's plays. There's something for everybody on the channel. But for this one, I'm going to leave it there. Big thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next episode of the Arsenal Beta Save.